Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something really right at the cutting edge of how software gets built. We're looking at how AI is shifting things for developers.
Yeah, it's moving way beyond just, simple code completion now.
Exactly. And there's this recent paper that maps out, well, it identifies two predistinct paths AI is taking in the coding world.
That's the one. We're digging into a paper from just May 2025. It's called Vibe Coding versus Agentic Coding, Fundamentals and Practical Implications of Agentic AI. Kind of provocative title.
It is, and it gives us a really useful framework, I think, for understanding these different ways AI is being used. So our mission for this deep dive is basically to cut through the hype, maybe, and give you the core insights from this paper, like what are vibe coding and agentic coding?
How are they actually different? Where do they work best?
Right. And crucially, what does this paper argue it all means for the future of software development? Think of this as your shortcut to getting up to speed on these new paradigms.
Okay, so let's set the stage a bit. The paper kicks off by acknowledging something a lot of us are probably seeing already.
Yeah.
That AI, especially these large language models, LLMs, they're getting embedded more and more into our, development tools, our workflows.
Totally. It feels like it wasn't long ago AI was just suggesting variable names, and now it can draft whole functions sometimes.
Exactly. But as this paper points out, it's not all the same kind of help. It's not just one big category of AI coding assistance. They've identified these two distinct paradigms, vibe coding and agentic coding.
Okay, let's break those down. Vibe coding first.
Sure. So vibe coding, the paper describes it as being defined by a really intuitive, human-in-the-loop kind of interaction.
Human in the loop. Okay, so this is probably the one that feels maybe more familiar right now, like a co-pilot setup where the AI is working with you.
Precisely. The interaction style is very prompt-based, almost conversational. You're the one steering, and the AI responds to your instructions, your ideas, your flow, you could say, your vibe.
Ah, okay. The vibe. That makes sense. So it's like having this super fast, knowledgeable pair programmer you just talk to or type instructions to.
That's a good way to put it. And the paper argues its main strength is in supporting things like ideation, experimentation, creative exploration.
Right. So not necessarily solving a massive, complex problem from start to finish on its own.
Not primarily, no. It's more about exploring possibilities, trying out different code snippets, quickly getting a prototype up, that sort of thing.
Okay. So vibe coding. Human-led, conversational, good for exploring, brainstorming, getting unstuck, maybe. How does agentic coding compare then? The name itself sounds different.
It really does. Agentic coding, in contrast, is focused on autonomous software development.
Autonomous? Okay, how autonomous? We're talking like way less back and forth.
Yeah, significantly less direct human intervention compared to vibe coding. Think of these as goal-driven AI agents.
Goal-driven agents?
Right. They can take a higher level objective and then sort of independently figure out the steps. They can plan, execute the coding, run tests, iterate.
Wow. So instead of me prompting every little step, I could potentially give it a goal like refactor this messy module or implement user authentication. And the agent just does it.
That's the core concept, yeah. The agent tries to reason through the necessary steps, write the code, run checks, find errors, maybe even fix them or try another way. All with pretty minimal human guidance once you set that initial goal.
Okay.
It takes on much more of the end-to-end task itself.
That really clarifies the split for me. Vive is the AI supporting my creative flow, while agentic is the AI pursuing a goal more independently.
Yeah.
But the paper goes deeper, right? It doesn't just stop at the high-level definitions. It mentioned a taxonomy.
It does, yeah. It gets quite detailed. Beyond just, autonomy and the developer's role, the paper breaks down differences across a whole bunch of areas. Things like architectural design, how they actually execute, the feedback loops, safety considerations, even debugging strategies.
Okay, maybe let's pick one of those to make it concrete.
Yeah.
How might the feedback loop look different between a Vibe system and an agentic one, according to the paper?
That's a good one. So with vibe coding, the feedback loop is super tight, almost instant, right? You type a prompt, you see a suggestion immediately, you react, you give the next instruction. It's this continuous cycle driven by the human.
Right, constantly steering.
Exactly. Now, with agentic systems, the feedback loop can be much longer and often more automated internally. The agent might say, run a whole test suite, look at the results, decide if the code works or needs fixing. And the feedback you get might come much later, like the agent presenting the finished piece of work or maybe flagging a specific problem it couldn't solve on its own.
Okay, so vibe coding. Human is constantly tweaking the loop. Agentic coding. The loop is mostly inside the AI, running autonomously until it hits a milestone or gets stuck. That distinction alone makes them sound like fundamentally different kinds of tools.
They really are, built for different things.
Yeah.
And the paper digs into that purpose by looking at where each one excels. They analyzed, I think it was 20 specific use cases.
Ah, okay, this is the practical side. The rubber meets the road, so to speak. So based on that analysis, where did vibe systems really perform well?
Well, they found vibe systems were most effective for tasks needing that rapid exploration and interactive learning.
Like what specifically?
The paper highlights things like early stage prototyping,
Yeah.
quickly sketching out an idea in code, and also educational contexts.
Oh, interesting. How so in education?
Like an AI acting as an interactive tutor, explaining coding concepts, generating examples on the fly based on the student's questions, that kind of vibe.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Bouncing ideas around, trying stuff quickly, maybe not aiming for perfect production-ready code right away. It's about getting ideas down fast.
Precisely. Lowering the barrier to just trying things out.
Okay, so flip side, where did the agentic systems show their strengths? My guess is maybe more defined tasks, things that are bigger or more repetitive.
You nailed it. The paper found agentic systems really excel in enterprise-grade automation. Think about those big systematic jobs like large-scale code-based refactoring, making consistent changes across maybe thousands or millions of lines of code based on a defined rule set. An agent could potentially tackle that autonomously.
Okay, that's a big one.
Yeah. And they also seem like a good fit for CI/CD pipelines, continuous integration, continuous deployment.
Ah, right, where code gets automatically built, tested, deployed.
Exactly.
Huh?
An agentic system could handle automated checks, run really complex test suites, maybe even manage deployment steps based on predefined goals within that pipeline. They're suited for tasks where you can give a clear objective and kind of let the AI run with it.
Okay, so vibe for the creative spark, the interactive exploration. Agentic for the structured, automated, maybe the heavy lifting tasks. It really sounds like they aren't trying to solve the exact same problems, more like complementary tools.
That's a really key point the paper makes, and it leads them into discussing this emerging trend, hybrid architectures.
Hybrid, as in mixing them together.
Exactly. Combining the intuitive natural language front end you might get with vibe coding
Okay.
with the more autonomous execution power of agentic systems on the back end.
Huh. So maybe I could, talk to the system naturally to set a complex goal, optimize this entire database interaction layer, and then an agentic component takes over the detailed planning and execution without me needing to prompt every step.
That's the kind of concept, yeah. Leveraging the human-friendly interaction of vibe to direct the powerful autonomous parts of agentic. The paper then talks about a future roadmap, too, needing infrastructure to make these agentic systems, trustworthy, explainable, collaborative.
Trustworthy and explainable seem absolutely massive there. If an AI is changing code autonomously, you have to be able to understand why it did what it did.
Totally agree. Which brings us, I think, to the paper's core finding, the main takeaway from their whole analysis.
And that is?
They basically conclude that the successful future of AI and software engineering, it isn't about choosing either vibe or agentic. It's not like one is going to completely replace the other.
So it's not about picking a winner in this vibe versus agentic battle.
Nope. The paper argues the real power, the real progress comes from harmonizing their strengths.
Harmonizing.
Yeah. Using vibe coding for that human-led creativity and exploration where it's best, and then leveraging agentic coding for the autonomous, goal-driven stuff where it shines.
Okay, harmonizing their strength. And the paper frames this within a particular context, right?
Yes, exactly. Within what they call a unified, human-centered development lifecycle. The developer doesn't vanish from the picture. They stay central, but they're strategically using these different AI tools for the right parts of the job.
Okay, let's recap then. We've got vibe coding. That human in the loop, conversational style, great for ideation, learning, exploring. Then agentic coding. More autonomous, goal-driven, better suited for big automation tasks like refactoring or CI/CD. And the big conclusion from this paper isn't to pick one, but to blend them, harmonize them within a process that still has the human developer firmly at the center.
That sums it up perfectly. Building a future where these different AI approaches work together, guided by human developers.
Which kind of leaves us, and you listening, with a final, maybe provocative thought to chew on. If AI gets really good at both helping with the creative, vibey exploration and autonomously executing complex tasks like an agent? What does that human-centered development lifecycle actually look like down the road? What's the truly unique, the irreplaceable role for the human developer when both vibe and agent AIs get incredibly capable across that whole spectrum? Something to think about.